Some things just go together. Wine and cheese, flowers in springtime, and yes, books and bottles. We pair your favorite author with your favorite drink. Your host of Books and Bottles, Benita Johnson.
Hi, welcome to Books and Bottles. I'm your host, Benita Johnson. Welcome back to our conversation where we introduce you to your favorite author. Just like the others, we're going to invite you into this conversation with a phenomenal individual who wrote a book that is amazing. So without further ado, I don't even want to waste time. I want to bring in my friend, Sadeqa Johnson.
Hi, Benita.
Hey, Sadeqa. Good to see you, and thank you for being here.
Oh, my gosh. Thank you for inviting me. I'm so happy to be here.
So listen, while the rest of us have been cooped up in COVID, you have been quite productive, giving us another gem, Yellow Wife. So this has been an amazing journey for me. I think I was telling you before the show, I just finished reading it today. And I've been like this with the emotions. It's everywhere. So you've done a fantastic job. Kudos to you.
Thank you. If you say your emotions are everywhere, that means I did my job. That means
you did your job.
Good.
You know, when you get to certain chapters and you kind of cringe because, you kind of like, oh, what's going to happen? This is going to be bad. This could turn out bad. But this, I loved it.
Oh, thank you. I hear from a lot of people that as the book gets towards the end, they find themselves slowing down because they don't want to hit that last page. It's like you want to kind of savor it, right?
Yes. So, because I think I have, I don't know, maybe 3 more minutes on the epilogue because I'm listening. I did it through Audible. So yeah. I think I still have maybe 3 minutes on the epilogue. But at the end was kind of where it got really intense because, I really wanted to know what happened. Do these people, live happily ever after? And, kind of what happens because, as you know, and as everybody know, with any book that touches on this subject matter, we've seen the movies, there's a lot of darkness in it, but you did a phenomenal job at explaining and doing your research, with everything that was going on.
The research was key for the book. So Yellow Wife is my 4th novel. That's my 4th novel. And it's historical fiction. And it's my first historical fiction. All my other books have been contemporary fiction. So when I discovered this story and started on this journey to create the novel, there was a lot that went into it. I live not far from Richmond. And I was on the Richmond slave trail with my family and some friends. And we really was just looking for an activity for the kids to like get out of the house and learn a little bit of history about Richmond. Well, lo and behold, as we're on the trail, they had different markers along the trail. And one of the markers talked about the Lumpkins jail and the owner of the jail, Robert Lumpkin. And it said he was married to a Black woman named Mary Lumpkin. And that was kind of where the inspiration of the story started. I was really, I was really kind of caught up in, he was white, she was Black. First of all, that was illegal. It was the 1800s. He was the owner of the jail. She was his slave. How did that work out? Was she there for survival? Did she love him? Like, what was going on inside of her body? And it also said that she had raised these 5 children on this ½ acre. And just to give a little context about the Lumpkins jail, it was a punishing center and it was a jail for enslaved people. And so over the course of 10, 15 years, over 200,000 slaves passed through the Lumpkins jail, whether to be traded, to be separated from their family, or to be punished. And so it was all of these things that I was kind of feeling when the story kind of took hold of me. It wasn't anything I was looking for. And I guess that's probably the best thing you're supposed to write about is like when you're not really looking for, and it just kind of knocks at you and says like, Sadeqa, I'm here.
Now, did you venture? So the book starts when her name's Phoebe in the book, and it starts when she was a young girl, and she was the daughter of a slaver, right? And a Black woman.
Yeah, she was the daughter of the master of the plantation. And so that's where I started to create fiction. So I used Mary Lumpkins and the Lumpkins jail as the inspiration. And I did that research. But ultimately, I am a fiction writer. I love to write fiction. I love the magic of making things up. And so the story that I told was the story of Phoebe Dolores Brown. She's 17 when the story opens, and she is the daughter of Reuben. She's the daughter of Master Jacob and his favorite slave, Ruth. Phoebe's mother is the medicine woman on the plantation, as well as the seamstress. They live in the loom house. And so they have a little bit more than the average enslaved person on the plantation. They live, you know, in what you would consider a little bit more comfort, but it's not comfortable. It's not a comfortable situation just in general. And she's also privy to the master's sister. Prior to the story opening, he had a sister who never married and never had children. And so she takes Phoebe under her wing. And so she educates her and she teaches her to play piano. And she has been promised freedom on her 18th birthday. It's something that she's known her entire life. Well, a series of events happen and things kind of go in a completely different direction. Phoebe finds herself cast off the plantation and thrown into the Lapeer jail, where she has to figure out how to survive this new landscape and, you know, figure out what's best for her and her family.
And what I liked about that, even when she got there and she found out, you know, that this jailer was going to be, you know, well, she was going to be his, you know, she kind of manipulated the situation to her benefit that, you know, you can't take a wife, you know, and, you know, would you say she learned that from her experience with, you know, back in Charles City, you know, where this lady, you know, she knew that her husband was in love with Phoebe's mom, but you know, so she punished her.
Yes. Yeah, I think Phoebe was trying to make, I mean, what I like about writing her character, I'm really attracted to writing about strong women. You know, women who have to walk through the fire. They have to figure out how to get through the fire with the least amount of burns as possible and the least amount of scars and get to the other side. And I think throughout the story, she is constantly trying to negotiate the best deal for herself and her family as possible as she moves through the story.
And as a strong woman, you kind of show that through other female characters in the book. You know, in the book, you show where there was a lot of sisterhood. You know, July, one of the caretakers in the book, you know, they kind of worked together and everybody knew what Phoebe was dealing with and they kind of helped supported that.
Yeah, I love July. She was one of my favorite characters when she kind of popped on the, you know, sometimes, so when I write, a lot I kind of outline out, but I always leave room for the magic of fiction to happen. And sometimes characters just pop into the story. They just pop onto the page and it feels like that's where they were supposed to be. And July was one of those characters. The first moment she popped in, I was like, oh, okay. Hey, welcome, you know?
So I know you said you walked the slave trail. How did you feel? I heard a lot of people when they do it, they kind of feel, you know, this ancestral energy walking that path.
For sure. It was definitely very palatable when we were walking. Particularly, I would say the strongest energy we felt was we ended up skipping ahead to the end of the trail where the jail actually was, where the Lumpkins jail was. And right next to it is the African burial grounds. And you could feel that ancestral energy. And it was so strong that like one of the friends that I was with, he started to pretend like he was playing the African drums. It was like you could hear the congas. And like the kids started dancing. Like we were like moving our bodies and like, you know, feeling the spirits. And it was like then that I felt like, you know, like these people had a story that needed to be told. You know, it was almost like they were waiting for me to come. That's, you know, that's really how it felt. Like they were waiting. We were there and they were like, okay, take this energy back and go and tell our story.
So I had a friend and he had a law firm in the 1800 block of East Main Street. And in the bottom of his firm, you could tell that's where they held slaves. Like they had two sides. that looked like one for men and women. They had bars and they had chutes where you drop food down, and it's maybe 2 blocks from where Lumpkin's jail is. So I can relate to where you said you felt the energy, because you could feel it in that building.
Oh, wow.
So,
I would love to see that. I would love to see that.
We can do that, because I do know the person who owns the building. He left, but I do know the person who owns it. Did you get a chance to go down to Charles City? You know, that's what, 30 miles from the city, as a part of your research?
So I visited the Shirley Plantation.
Okay.
I don't remember if that's actually in Charles City or right next to it, but that was one of the plantations that I used as my research, and so that I can kind of get a feel for what that energy was like. I primarily picked Charles City because I wanted it to be not as far as Hampton Roads area, but it needed to be some distance from Richmond.
And I think that was you made a good choice at choosing that, because it is just right off the river, and it's like a real easy route. So it made sense that, you know, they would get on a boat there and, you know, come on up to James and take that, you know, dump right off where Richmond is. I used to have, there was one summer I owned a restaurant that was on a boat, and we used to be right there where they would put slaves off to go to come to Richmond, you know, right there. So
the James River was such a huge passageway. You know, we don't use it the way it was used, you know, in the 1800s, but it was a major source of transportation for goods and people and everything. And so having the story take place along the James River was really important.
It is. And, you know, here, you know, we've been in the city. I've lived in Richmond all my life. You know, we've been doing different things to kind of build up around the river, like some other river cities, such as San Antonio and Baltimore even. So what's home for you?
So I'm in Midlothian. I'm south of Richmond.
Okay, not too far.
I grew up in Philadelphia.
Okay.
So, Philly girl, grew up eating cheesesteaks and soft pretzels, water, you know. And then I went to college in New York City. I met my husband. We moved to Jersey. We lived in New Jersey for 17 years, had 3 children. And then we moved down here about almost 6 years ago now.
Okay. So did you always know you would be a writer?
I started off wanting to be an actress, but I was always a reader. So I was like the kid who I would go to the library every Monday. I checked out 7 books, and every day I would read a book. I read a book a day, and then I would go back the next week, drop them off. I mean, the librarian knew me by name. She knew me by name because I spent so much time at the library. So it really started with a love of reading for me. I took a lot of acting classes. I was a theater major in college. And I think that is where I really started to fool around a little bit with writing, because we had to write plays. And I lived in New York City, so I was a poet. You know, we would go to like New York Cafe, and I would get on stage and merge acting and writing and perform my poetry. And so, you know, it was a really interesting time for me. It was the coming of age of me becoming a writer at that time.
Okay, so having come to Richmond, how do you compare the writing scene?
When I first moved here, the first thing I wanted to do was plug in with the James River Writers. I had heard a lot about that organization, and they have conferences. And so that was like one of the first things that I did. I love the artsy scene of the Richmond area, between the Visual Arts Center and the Virginia Fine Arts Museum. There's always, you know, pre-COVID, there was always something that I could kind of get my feet, even like that arts walk down on Broad Street. Like there was always something that I could do to kind of feed my artist self. Now everything is virtual, but it is one of the things that I liked about Richmond when I moved here.
Okay, so did you find that, you know, since we talked about COVID, writing during COVID, when you can't do, you know, as much as you used to do, did you find it just as easy or a bit more challenging?
It was a little more challenging for me because I have 3 children, and soon as COVID hit, everybody was virtual. And I'm used to being home by myself during my writing time. So at like 8 to 2:30, I knew it was going to be quiet. I could focus. I can move at my own pace. And all of a sudden, it's people knocking on my door, asking what's for lunch, you know. And then it's me worried about, are they really learning virtually? Like, do I need to pop down and see what's going on? And so it was definitely an adjustment. I think we've gotten it now. But I would say those first few months was definitely an adjustment. And I think also too, a little frustration for me as a mom, because you want the best for your kids, right? Sure. You want to make sure that they're getting everything they needed. And those first couple of months, you know, everybody was trying to figure things out. So it was a little bit challenging.
Okay, so tell me about the moment and how you felt when you found out that Yellow Wife was chosen to be a part of Oprah's book club.
Wow. So it was actually, that was amazing. It was actually chosen as Oprah's magazine's top 27 best books, historical fiction novels for 2021. And so I didn't even know that it was a thing. I was actually sitting at my desk and I have a fellow writer who sent the link to me. And I'm like, why is she sending this link to me? And as I'm scrolling through the link, I'm seeing all the books and then I see Yellow Wife and I'm like, oh my gosh, because, you know, Oprah has been on my vision board, Benita, since, yes, you know, vision boards many years ago. Even back when I lived in Jersey, I always had a vision board, you know, and Oprah was always on it. So to be included in the roundup for the magazine was just, it was like, oh, you put something out into the universe. All you got to do is just wait and let it manifest.
That's inspirational. Look, you got me going upstairs. I'm going to redo my vision board.
Well, it's that time of year where you need to freshen it up, right?
It is.
January, February, you need to freshen it up.
I usually do it. I make my birthday kind of my new year. And so I like to do it. My birthday is coming up, so I will be doing it real soon. So what was your, no, before I ask you that question, on Yellow Wife, do you see this? Because, you know, I see a lot of the books we do here, you know, I like the visual. Do you see this on the screen?
I've always seen it on the screen. I mean, as I'm writing, the book kind of flows through my head. The scenes flow through my head as a movie, you know, so I kind of write in that way where I'm telling that story to a degree. I feel like, you know, of course, every writer wants to see their work on the big screen, whether it's a movie or an 8-part series. Shonda, call me. You know, you're done with Bridgerton, right?
That's right. I saw one of the articles. I can't remember which media outlet it was in, where they mentioned Yellow Wife and Bridgerton in the same conversation.
Yeah, that was pretty exciting. So in Canada, their version of the New York Times is called the Globe and Mail. And the Canadians have been super duper supportive of Yellow Wife. I mean, so much so, last week, Yellow Wife made their bestsellers list. So it debuted on the Globe and Mail bestsellers list. So I am officially an international bestseller, Benita.
That has to be so excited. I am excited for you. When I was listening to the book today in the car, my daughter said, "Is that your friend?" And she said, "I love your friend's book." I was like, "Yeah."
Oh, I mean, so, just going back a little bit, you remember when I was teaching writing classes and I would use your space to teach writing classes. Yeah,
that's a perfect segue to wine, because that was my wine office. And you were so funny because my office is tiny, but you said, "Girl, I lived in New York. You know, this is a whole apartment, right?"
And for writing students, we like to be close and cozy anyway, so it was perfect.
It was great, and I was glad to have you there. I should have taken the class, honestly.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'll let you know when I have another one.
Please look, and you're welcome to use my space. It's there. So I do have to introduce what I'm drinking today, since I'm drinking alone, but I don't mind. I am drinking a Pinot Noir from Willamette Valley. It is called Aunt Amy, and it is one of my absolute favorites. It's very earthy, high acidity, grapefruit, perfect with salmon, with ham, or just by itself. So
now, did you think that paired really well with Yellow Wife? If you think about the time period, the 1850s.
Absolutely, because it's kind of rustic, you know. So when you think about that time, you know, I don't think about, like, when I think about people drinking back then, you know, I think about like the hard, you know, it's kind of hard.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so like this is not hard, but it's very rustic. It's kind of earthy. So, yep, I think it would be a great pairing with Yellow Wife.
Awesome. That's good. You know what? I drank a lot while I was writing the book. A friend of mine makes tea. And so she made an Earl Grey lavender tea, which the loose tea, which I never did like the loose teas to put it in, you know, I used right. But I absolutely love it now. So she called it like a Yellow Wife tea. And so now it's been like my everyday drink as I take that Earl Grey and lavender tea. I seep it, and it is perfect.
And lavender is so good for relaxation.
Mm-hmm.
I remember I got a massage one time, and we used lavender, and I slept right on through it.
Wow.
It's really good. So what was your first novel?
So my first novel is called Love in a Carry-On Bag, and that is a long-distance love story. She lives in New York. He lives in DC. They really want to be together, but there's all these things kind of pulling them apart. And that book took me 10 years to complete. I think it was a combination of learning how to write and, I don't know, having children, getting married, all of that wound up, you know, as I was writing that book. So that book came out in 2012. So that was my debut. And then Second House from the Corner followed in 2015. And Second House from the Corner is a story about a woman who gets married with secrets and what happens when they start to kind of fall out of her closet. So that's a juicy one. That one is near and dear to my heart because my grandmother, she told me a lot of different stories about people that, you know, things that happened in our family prior to me being born and things that her and my grandfather experienced. And somehow I was able to incorporate that into the story, but keep the story contemporary. So I really love that one. And then my third novel is And Then There Was Me. And that's a story about friendship, secrets, and lies. The main character is a woman who has a eating disorder that she has to overcome. And so again, that strength of a woman, what she has to go through. She's in a marriage that she's not happy. She lives in a neighborhood that she didn't choose. And so she has to kind of figure these things out in the midst of her friendships and her children. And so that was the third one. And then now we have, you know, Yellow Wife.
It's a beautiful color. I mean, cover. It's gorgeous.
Thank you. I know. I feel like I should be wearing yellow at like every interview. I only have like 3 yellow shirts though. And I don't want you guys to see me wearing the same thing.
I know. Listen, I was thinking about that today too. I said I should wear my yellow dress, but that's like the picture. I only have one yellow dress, and that's the picture in the intro. So it's like, nah, I can never wear that again.
Well, Benita, can I borrow that yellow dress? Because I think with this background, that yellow dress would make me pop.
Yes, yes, you may. I only live about a mile from where Lumpkin Jail was, so I'm easy to. You can walk. I think my son walks down there every Saturday just to get coffee. And you know, if you've been to Churchill, you know, there's plenty of coffee shops, but he walks all the way down there to get his coffee every Saturday and Sunday.
Wow. We were just down there in November. I went back. It was my first time actually going back to the slave trail. I went in 2016, discovered the story, went home and wrote and didn't go again. But I went to go take some footage so that Simon & Schuster could put together a book trailer. And it was a completely different experience the second time I went, which was kind of funny because I thought I was going to feel that same energy, feel the same way I did the first time. But it was like, it wasn't. It was very different.
How did you feel the second time? Because I mean, I do know I've only done it once, and I've had people come to town and they want to do it.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, I have to be in the right mindset to want to do that again because it is so emotionally impactful. Mm-hmm. How did you feel the second time? Because I haven't done my second trip yet.
Second time, I felt like to be quite honest, I felt like the trail had been neglected. Whereas when we went the first time, and maybe because it was April the first time, but everything was kind of in bloom and it was like the trail was impeccable. All of the markers were there. When we went back in November, it was a little bit more chilly. some of the trees have fallen down over the path. And so it just wasn't that complete like museum like experience, you know, or that, and the energy I felt had shifted. It was like the story was there the first time, but if I had gone in November, I don't think I would have got the same story. Just the energy was different, if that makes any sense.
Well, I'm glad you went in 2016 because we may not have given birth to your newest baby, Yellow Wife.
Yes. Yeah, I am too, because, you know, switching from contemporary to historical fiction was a very scary thing for me, you know, and it just was the right circumstance that gave me the courage to say, just jump into the pool and see what will happen, you know?
You killed it. You know, you did a great job in your first jump into the pool.
Oh, thank you.
So what's next for you?
So I am working on a second historical fiction. I think I've gotten bitten by the bug. I really I like the research. I like knowing about Black people, about Black history. I'm working on a 1950s story now, which is completely different. So I went from 1850s and now
like a whole 100 years.
A whole 100 years, but I'm in the midst of segregation. I'm in the midst of, I'm setting the story. I grew up in Philadelphia, as I mentioned. And so the story is set between Philly and DC. So I'm just doing research now, getting to know the neighborhoods and who lived where. Blacks lived here, Jewish people lived here, Italians lived there, how they kind of moved in the world, but also setting it again on the backs of a strong young girl. Phoebe was 17, and actually my new main character, she's 15. I don't know what that's about, but that's where I am right now. Yeah.
Okay. Maybe because it's something like resonating with you, with your kids, like the age of your kids and kind of where they're coming, the age they're coming through now.
Yeah, because my daughter now, my middle child is my oldest daughter, and she's 15. And so when I'm thinking about this new character, a lot of times I'm thinking about her. So we'll see where it goes.
So how can we get your book? I want everybody to get this book, like while it's there. I want people to log into Amazon. They say it's sold out.
I would love that. I would love for you to log into Amazon or Barnes and Noble, or even Benita, it's at Target. This is my first book that's available at Target.
I saw it at Target, but I had already ordered it at Amazon.
Yeah, I'm easy. Wherever you get it from, I'm just glad you got it. So you can literally buy the book wherever books are sold. If you want to buy local and you're in the Richmond area, Chop Suey Books, Fountain Books, and the Little Bookshop all carry the book, and they all have signed copies.
I wanted to come. I saw you. Were you at Chop Suey, or there was something that was announced about Chop Suey, but I was traveling that weekend or that day. So I wanted to come and see you.
Oh, yeah. I dropped in and kind of did like a drive-by with my mask on. So I had my mask on, you know, just a drive-by signing, trying to keep everybody safe.
It's so different now.
I know.
So, but I'm happy for you. I am happy that your book is doing well. I know, I mean, it's only been out, 3 weeks, not even a whole month yet.
Wow.
And, you know, you're just selling them off the shelves. I'm so proud of you. And thank you so much for joining us on Books and Bottles.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been such a pleasure. It's so good to see you. You look
great. We got to catch up.
For sure. For sure.
Okay. So if there's other authors out there and you'd like to be a part of Books and Bottles, email us at info@groseprod.com. Until next week, we'll see you again, and take care and read something. Cheers.
Camped out at home for COVID? Join us, Indie TV, where you will see the talk shows, movies, drama, action, and comedy. Be the first and see it first. Sign up now for free at Indie TV.